Well, good morning. We are here today with our business partners from the local area in the Human and Public Safety and Human and Public Services pathways. And we want to thank you, first of all, for being here today. It's very important to us to be able to provide some information to our students. And what I'd like to do first is just have each one of you introduce yourself with your name, your title, and the organization that you are representing. So we want to start with you.
My name is Johannsen. I'm the Juvenile Justice Coordinator for Winnebago County Juvenile Probation.
Hi, I'm Tammy Stanley. I'm the commander of the McChesney Park Division for the Winnebago County Sheriff's Office.
And I'm Chaney, fire recruiter for Rockford Fire Department.
Thank you all for being here today. We're going to kind of start our first round of questions with your education and how you chose your career pathway. So Jared, if you could tell us what is an education that is necessary in your field and how did you choose that career would be what you wanted to do?
So for juvenile probation, you have to have a bachelor's degree. So I have my bachelor's degree. It's law enforcement and justice administration. In college, I chose that field I was actually deciding between that and teaching. I took some classes in teaching, I took some classes in law enforcement, and decided to go the law enforcement route. So that's how I decided to go into the field that I'm in right now.
Thank you very much. And what specific high school courses can be taken for your position? Are there any?
I'm not sure if there's any
We do have some
specific
criminal
courses.
justice.
You do have some criminal justice?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know with Rockford, they have the academies, and I believe there's one called HPS, which has some classes that you can take for criminal justice. I know one of the classes is Intro to Criminal Justice, and I believe the other one is Criminal Investigations, which I believe you can get college course or credits for one of those. I don't know if you can for both. So I know Rockford, they have the academies that can kind of track you towards a specific one. Not sure about the other schools in the county, though.
So we do have our Explorer program, our law enforcement
Yes.
Explorer program for the county, so that's how.
And tell us a little bit about the Explorer program, like what age group, what does it consist of?
It's for kids 14 to 20. Obviously, when you turn 21, you can test to be a police officer. That's why we cut it off at 20. And they just learn anything that a police officer does. We meet twice a month, pretty much 9 months out of the year. And then the 3 months in the summertime, we do ride-alongs. If you're 16 and over, you can do ride-alongs to see exactly what the job is before you go into college and commit to that field.
So what made you decide to go into this field, Tammy?
Well, I do have a bachelor in criminology, sociology, and I do also have a MBA, but I kind of did the different route. It took me a little while to get here, and my dad said, hey, they're hiring down at the county. He didn't really tell me for what, so it's kind of got me roundabout down here.
Bo, can you kind of tell us how you got to the career where you're at today?
The roundabout way, or well, I was originally a teacher. I went to Eastern and then finished at Rockford College and taught in Rockford for a while. Then went back and got my master's in education administration. So I had no idea of fire service as a public servant. The way I got into it was the recruiter at the time recruited me to become a firefighter, but I didn't want to become a firefighter because I did so many years teaching or in school to teach. So I agreed with him that we made a deal that I would help minorities test for the fire service. And what happened was we were in my kitchen and I had a few guys that I was helping with basic reading and math skills for the test. I agreed to take the test with those guys. And when that Saturday came, none of those guys showed up. So I took the test and I was about to leave, and the recruiter and another inspector at the time talked me into taking the test, and the rest is kind of history.
Here you are today.
Right, yeah.
Talking with us about a career in fire services.
Right. But when I got into it, it was one of those deals where I had to let other people know, because it was something that if you enjoy helping people, then it's something that you like to do.
With that, going on to the next steps on education, can you give us some guidelines on what opportunities there are for advancement and career growth in the fire service and the fire department?
Right, so fire service is different because the general public looks at firefighters as just someone that runs in the burning buildings or EMS calls, but it's so much more. So once you get into the fire service, it's whatever you call 911 for, we show up. You know, shooting, we're coming for EMS. If someone falls in the river, we got a dive team. If it's a spill, then we got a hazmat team that comes out. And it's just so if someone gets stuck somewhere, it's a TRT, technical rescue team. So it's so many other aspects of just being a firefighter. And I think that that's what kind of drew me in, because you know a little bit about each of these systems, so you're a little bit more well-rounded. But it's some guys that just take off and go to TRT or dive or a hazmat, or they just go whichever way they want to go.
So it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity.
There's plenty of opportunities. And then that's not even the investigative part. You know, you got inspectors that inspect buildings, and then you got investigators that investigate fires. And I always ask kids, do firefighters carry guns? They say, no, we do, because our investigators can arrest people. So it's so many aspects to the fire department that I never knew about
Right.
through teaching. So that's one of my big deals. I want to get out and say, okay, you doing, I steal some people from the police. You doing police? You want to be a policeman? You can be a firefighter and be an inspector.
And they have stole people from our department.
Oh yeah, we always do. We always do. That I know that we always do.
Uh-oh.
Right.
So we always wonder a lot of times when we see a squad car, we always see a fire truck too, and we're asking questions why, but you've just kind of answered that because of all the different opportunities that there are for positions within the fire department. So-
Right, and then we work hand in hand with the police. A lot of people don't know that. So when we go to
Right.
fires, the police are there. They're taking care of our equipment while we're running in the house, or they make sure the scene is safe before we go in somewhere. So they're a big part of our position also.
So, may I call you Commander? Every time
My name's Tammy's fine.
Tammy's fine, okay. So I want to find out from you, like, what are some of your future trends, but also what are some of the challenges? And I know there's a lot of things that we know already are challenges, but is there anything like behind the scenes that maybe our common student wouldn't know about in police force that could be a challenge?
Well, first, right now, it's a challenge to get anybody to come and test. Unfortunately, in the media, where the police officers have been portrayed as, I guess, bad people. So we're just having a challenge of getting anybody to come out and test, especially for corrections and police and dispatchers and probation and parole and the different parts of law enforcement. It's just a challenge to get anybody to come out to test and want to become a police officer. Another challenge is minorities, just getting minorities just to test, or anybody to come to test. So I think that's the biggest challenge right now.
Can I add on to that? Because we will see a lot of people that because of what's going on, they'll have things to say about police and fire, and the best way I can recruit somebody is to say, if you want to see change, then get inside the system and then create that
Exactly.
type of change. And that's about the best way that I can see us moving forward. You know what I mean?
But I do see in our Explorer program, we do have a wide range of minorities that, females, Hispanic, Black, Asian, that are coming out and, want to learn about it, but it's just getting them when they turn 21 to actually come and test.
I like that you say that. If you want to make change, then get involved and make that change. Be involved and be a part of that change. Same to you. What do you think about telling a student that may be going into the pathway of being in probation or juvenile? What would you tell them as an opportunity for them to have the career and to grow within that career?
So to get into probation, the best thing they can do right now is to make sure they're staying out of trouble, make sure they're getting good grades. I know it's kind of cliche, but for probation, you got to have your college degree. So you want to get those good grades so you can get into college and then do more. We talked about some of the academies at some of the schools. You can learn more about the field with some of those as well.
So you mentioned good grades, and along with good grades come things like attendance, showing up on time, being proactive. If you're done with an assignment early and you need something to do, you can ask for extra credit. These are all kinds of things that flow over into the workforce. So it's kind of like a training system when we're in school to get ourselves prepared for the next step. So with that being said, we want to move on to the very interesting question that the kids ask the most. And we'll just start with you, Jared. What are the salary levels and benefits and the differences between the entry level and then, of course, the degreed positions? I know you have a degree, but are there any entry level positions? And then if you could give us pay ranges.
Yeah, so to get into probation, you have to have the bachelor's degree. Any probation officer who gets hired within our department, the starting salary is about $37,000. They do get dental, health insurance, retirement. They get all that with it as well. So there's no difference in pay with any entry coming into probation. It's all the starting salary is the same.
To you, Tammy, would you give us some ideas on the entry level versus the growth within the police department?
We really have no entry level. We do have some civil positions in our records department and some civil positions in our corrections department, but you really have to be a deputy, and you can move up from there, from a deputy to canine to crime scene to narcotics to a sergeant, lieutenant, anywhere from up there. So there's a big opportunity for growth.
So it's good to know that in the police department, you can actually step up that ladder like you've done
Yes.
and start at the bottom and then work your way up to the top. So there's
You
plenty
have
of
to.
room for
There's
advancement.
no way you can come in as a lieutenant or
Yes,
a deputy chief. You have to work
yes.
your way up from the deputy. Or for a correctional officer, you can still work your way up to, there's canine in the corrections, there's sergeants, lieutenants, deputy chiefs also in the corrections field.
So when you come in as a police officer, do they cross-train so you have to know everything? Or are there certain pockets, if you're interested, that you can just do canine, or do you just kind of do it all?
Well, you have to be a deputy first, and then you can be promoted to the canine, but canine is still a police officer, except you've got your dog with you, so you have quite a bit more extensive training in that field. Obviously, narcotics, you have a bit more extensive training in that, and in crime scene, there's a very extensive training for the crime scene.
So it depends on the student, actually, how far they want to climb that ladder, how they apply themselves, and what they'd like to take that next step to. Bo, how about you?
Similar, we start off at 54,000, but it's no degree needed. It's high school diploma or GED, driver's license, clean record. And I like what you mentioned about the schools, because we don't want to be late to fires, you know what I mean? So you can't be late to school. But it's all the same, and we all come in at one level, and we try to move to the top or find a lane in the fire service that you want to go in and promote that way.
We'll go back to you, Bo. What advice would you give a high school student that will be watching this panel on how to choose their career and how to grow within their career and to be successful?
Right. Well, it's kind of tough love type of deal, because it's hard for high school students just because they're at an age where they have to make a lot of decisions about friends and about which route do I go. So when I always give advice to somebody, I'm looking at a younger me. What would I tell a younger me that maybe didn't know about the fire service and wanted to get in? So you take school seriously, you be on time, you kind of hang with the right people, because they can influence you to do different things. And any type of, not just fire, because I do want everybody to even look at firefighters, but if they go to the other professions, that's fine. But you gotta be successful in all of those paths. I mean, we're not looking for people that's lukewarm, you know what I mean? We kind of want people that have some type of vision and knows what they want to do. So high school is a great point to try to get a focus on where you want to go. And I think we are all just bringing those opportunities to them to see which way what pathway they want to go down.
Awesome. I'm going to jump down to a couple of different questions. The first question is for you, Tammy. What interested you the most about this career? And then if you could tie into that, how important the life balance is with this career.
Well, right now with my position, I have no life balance, but what was the first part of the question?
The first part is what interested you the most about this career?
For me, what interests me most, I volunteered quite a bit. So this way I actually got paid to volunteer, because we have a lot of opportunities that, especially like this one, that we get to work with the community. And I think that's most police officers getting this type of work to help people. I'm sure fire, you did, just to get to help people, and we actually get paid to help people now.
So tell me a little bit more about the volunteer pay, because a lot of students have to volunteer in high school if they're in different clubs or organizations. they might be interested in that, or even someone that's interested in this track. So tell us a little bit about the volunteer opportunities, would you?
Not within the police department. Well, you actually could volunteer with us. We have these special events. We do have Shop with the Cop. We have Fill the Bus that we could use some volunteers for, or some other special events. But before I became a police officer, I always volunteered at food pantries, anything around the community that I could volunteer for, I did. So that kind of helped me be able to talk to people, and this is what you need to be able to do as a police officer, talk to people. That's, your mouth is your best weapon. So for me, that opportunity to be able just to see different people within the community was able to help me in this position.
So any type of community volunteering events would be helpful to get kids more engaged with people, and that would be very helpful in your career.
Correct.
Okay. How about you, Jared?
So life balance was actually one of the things that led me towards probation when I was deciding on what I wanted to do. Once I decided I wanted to go the law enforcement route instead of teaching, I started taking classes on being an officer or the probation route. And in college, I enjoyed my nights and weekends off. So that kind of led me towards the probation route, because most of probation's positions is nights and weekends off. So to me, it was important to kind of have those, because I did things in the evenings when I was younger, like sports and stuff, where I wouldn't be able to do in other fields. So I knew it was important to, one, like my job, as well as have that other part in life where I could do stuff outside of it. And for me, having my nights and weekends was important for me.
I want to go back to a little bit of the volunteer questions too, and I would like to, thanks for that information, Tammy, and I'd like to ask you, Jared and Bo, as well, because we do talk to the students a lot about getting into volunteer work because it helps build up their resume. So when they do apply for jobs or apply for colleges, those type of volunteer scenarios help within their resume. So what kind of recommendations would you give them on a volunteer aspect as well, where they could get involved at a young age and be able to put that on their resume for future? Jared, if you want to go ahead.
Well, we don't have anything within our department where high schoolers are able to volunteer with us specifically. We have a lot of confidentiality stuff that could complicate that. We do take college interns, but I know when I was in high school, I joined some community groups that we had a teen leaders group where I was from. So I was a part of that. And I mean, that looks great, like you talked about, for colleges and jobs as well. So just finding something you can volunteer with, whether it's with the police department, I don't know if the fire department has stuff, but there's plenty of stuff out there you can get involved with that. And it's also good for networking as well. And so I think it's important to be a part of stuff like that.
Just volunteering in general then is, no matter what it is, it just helps get you prepared. Yeah. Bo, what about specifically, is there anything with the fire department specifically they can do?
Well, we're a full-time fire department, so we don't have a volunteer aspect to the fire department. However, we do have it where we have an Explorers program.
Yeah, I thought you talked about it.
It's been crippled because of COVID right now, but we do have Explorers program. And then you got to figure they're coming to be public servants, so anything that they can do in the public. So if we're at Stroll on State, then we need volunteers. If we're having a 911 run, that we need volunteers. So any of those things that we're doing, they can always come to the fire department and volunteer to help us on those events, and then we'll send them letters that they can put in their files to have later when it's time to test somewhere.
So let's talk a little bit about the work that you are doing to get the Explore program launched, because I know you talked about that earlier in the year when we brought counselors out. What age group is that, and what's that going to look like?
So Explorer starts at about 6th or 7th grade and goes all the way up to the end of high school to 18, right? So we have a chance to reach in and reach the kid at an early age, and then through things that we do out on West State Street, our academy, they get a chance to see if they like it or not. So right now we're in the infancy stages of rolling it all the way up, where once they turn 18, since they can't test until they're 21, we can try to get some type of schooling paid for, or get a program where they can roll all the way up through Rock Valley. And then if we can do that, then we have a way to connect with a student from middle school all the way up until it's time to test. That way we have no way to lose them, because in studies that we've done with Carla Red and the people at police department, it's usually ages 10 or 14 where they start to get in some type of trouble. So we got to figure out a way to keep them interested because everybody loves police and fire when they're little. And then for some reason, I don't know if it's peer pressure or whatever, you guys may know better than me, they get out of it. So right now, I'm just trying to figure out a way to keep them interested all the way up through.
So the Explorer programs would be weeknights, weekends, what kind of hours would that
We
be?
go Wednesday night and then Saturday in the morning. So
Okay.
we'll do a Wednesday night from 6 to 9, we'll do something, and then Saturday we're out at the academy, you know, doing everything a firefighter would do.
And Tammy, what about your Explorer program?
The second and fourth Wednesdays of the month from 5 to 7. It just
Perfect.
depends what we're doing that day, where we're going to meet.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to let you ask the next question.
One of the things we talk about a lot is soft skills, traits that the high school students, I know we've talked a little bit about it, about showing up on time. One of the things we like to talk about too is in the aspect of your careers is teamwork. Do you work a lot with teams? Do you do a lot of work on your own? And if we do a lot of work together as in teamwork, what kind of traits and things would you tell a high school student that would be great to have in order to work in that type of environment? Bo, if you want to go ahead and start.
Yeah, it's a little weird with the fire department because we're always 2 in, 2 out. So you have a teammate and you're trusting that teammate. The thing that makes it weird is every call is different, every day is different. You may have a different teammate every day. So you have to be an outgoing person that's able to work with a lot of people to become a firefighter. Because if I get used to just working with you, if Beth comes the next day, then, you know, if I'm not used to working with a bunch of people, it may go wrong. So we always work as a team. And then it's just crazy because at a fire, you figure it's anywhere from it starts off at 3 or 4 people and it may end up with 20 people. So you start off with a small team, but by the end of the scenario, you're working with a larger team. So teamwork may be one of the best traits. And I usually try to go looking for people that have played sports that are on teams because they already know the aspect of, you know, working together.
So teamwork in high school, we talked about this earlier in another panel discussion, is kind of where it starts. So if you have a project with somebody and they're depending on you to get that done and you don't get it done, it really affects the portion of their job. So when your teachers and administrators talk to you about teamwork, there's a reason for that because it flows right over into the workplace. And so that's a great way to answer that question. So what about your collaboration and working alone versus working with others in the police force?
Well, you're in a squad by yourself unless you're training someone. But if you go to a call, there could be 2 people. There could be every single agency, just depending on what kind of type of call it is. It could be fire. That could be also there. You're working with the medical field. An ambulance may show up. It just depends on what day it is. Every day is different. So if you're looking for something that's not the same thing over and over every day, then this is the job for you.
Awesome. And Jared, how about at the Juvenile Detention Center?
So with probation, we have our own caseloads, but we do work a lot with other people. We work with the courts, the judge. We have communication with them, state's attorney. We do some stuff with law enforcement. We work a lot with local agencies in the community as well. We have different programs within probation where you work as a team. We have like a mental health court, so you work with different people in there that PO does. We have another program that's called Redeploy, so we work with a local agency with there as well, where we work closely with them. We have an intensive unit, so there's 2 people who do work together for that as well. So even though you have your own caseloads, you do a lot of work with a lot of other people as well. And I mean, important traits for that we already talked about some of the other stuff, but communication's important. You got listening. You have to be able to listen and be able to take advice from others as well. So that's all important when working together.
Awesome. I'm going to wrap the last question and wrap up 2 for 1, okay? So Jared, I'm going to start with you. First of all, I want you to dig really deep when you think about this first question and tell us what your greatest achievement has been of your career. And then the second question I want to leave the students with is what advice you would have for someone in this role.
So the greatest achievement that I had with probation so far, and this might kind of sound hard to believe, but with a lot of the people we do work with, there's a lot of unfortunate situations and they come from hard lives. One of the kids we had in the one of the programs I talked about earlier, it was actually going to his high school graduation. So we don't necessarily see a lot of high school graduations. We work on GEDs and stuff as well. But this was a kid who had some struggles early growing up, got in some trouble in the streets. And while working with him, he eventually graduated high school. So going to his high school graduation was really awesome to go to and be a part of.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give someone stepping into this role?
So if you're stepping into a role with probation, you got to be compassionate. I mean, you see a lot of stuff in this position, a lot of unfortunate situations. You got to be willing to help. Part of our role is to keep the community safer and hold the offender accountable, but it's also to try to help them work through it so they don't re-offend, and to help get them the resources they need and work with them so that they don't keep making the same mistakes again down the road. So you got to be ready to work in some tough situations, and you develop relationships with some of these people you work with.
And I imagine you see a lot of bad things turn into good things, which is very rewarding.
It is.
Tammy, how about you? One of your greatest achievements?
I don't think it's anything personal for me. Obviously, I've gotten some awards, and obviously I've been promoted, but for me, it's just, once again, I go back to the community work, where we had some gift cards donated, and I was in charge of the social media at that point. I got a message from a mother saying that her daughter has 2 small boys. She works a job, but she doesn't get paid as much. She's going back to school. She's raising her 2 children by herself. So I was able to get those gift cards, and we went up to her employer and were able to surprise her. So just the community work is probably the best.
So seeing a smile come
Yep.
across someone's
Yep.
face and changing their day and,
Right.
and making that change to make this a better place.
Exactly.
What we talked about earlier.
Yep.
And what advice would you give someone that's thinking about stepping into this role?
Obviously, there's lots of cop shows on TV, and you get to see the exciting kicking in the doors and guns blazing, but that's not, if you want to do police work, you shouldn't come just because of that. It's mostly because you want to make a difference in your community, not for the fun guns blazing.
Very good, honest answer. How about you, Bo?
I think that the greatest achievement would be to, looking back, would be to come in not knowing what I was getting into, and then to jump into it and become a change agent. Because if I look across for my career, it's guys that'll come up to me like, hey, look, I was in your basement talking to you one day, and you talked to me about fire a long time ago, and I'm a firefighter. So it was an opportunity for me to kind of let somebody in my house, you know what I mean, as becoming a firefighter. So now it's another guy that was teaching. I'm like, man, you gotta test. Now he's a firefighter, and he's got friends that I never see him. I was just teasing him the other day, like, man, I never see you. I talked to you into becoming a firefighter. And it's that those community things. And then once you take on a role, you become it's almost like a hero deal within the community. So, you know, you got to watch social media, you got to do all this other stuff. And in certain ways, you got to walk and talk. And I think that's the greatest achievement, is seeing something in somebody and say, hey, you can do this. And once they get there, to see them believe that they can do it is the greatest achievement. We help a lot of people, but I'm always looking for that person that can replace me or take my role. So I'm always looking for somebody. If I see it in you, let me explain it to you. You can do it, and let's get you through it.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, you guys. We really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.